All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Massakum Allah bil khair jami'an. In September 2021, the Council of Ministers approved the Saudi Personal Data Protection Law, which protects personal data from uncensored collection and processing. The law is aimed to ensure the privacy of personal data, regulate the sharing of this data, and prevent the abuse of personal data. The Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority announced that it has postponed the implementation of this personal data protection law for 1 year, even though it was supposed to start today or be enforced and implemented today. The law was supposed to be implemented today, as we said, but it was postponed for next year, inshallah. In today's webinar, organized by the Saudi Association for Information Systems, we host two information privacy and security experts, Dr. Tawfiq Alashoor and Dr. Hussain Aldawood, who will talk to us not only about the new law, but also how we can take privacy and security from principles to practice. Now, before we start our webinar, allow me to introduce our guest of honor. Dr. Tawfiq Alashoor is an assistant professor at Copenhagen Business School in Denmark, a highly ranked business school by global rankings. Dr. Alashoor holds a bachelor's degree from King Fahd University in Information Systems and a master's degree from Penn State University and a PhD degree from Georgia State University in the United States. He has completed his postdoc program at the University of Notre Dame in the United States and has taught managerial cybersecurity at Notre Dame and King Fahd University. Dr. Alashoor's main research focuses on privacy decision-making and cybersecurity. His research has been published in peer-reviewed journals in information systems and globally recognized conferences. He received several awards in different prestigious conferences, like the Best Research Paper and the Best Research Reviewer Award. He serves as a reviewer for top-tier journals in information systems, such as MIS Quarterly, Information Systems Research and Management Science, and including other editorial roles in the privacy research community. Dr. Alashoor teaches different topics related to security and privacy, including managerial cybersecurity, and other topics like system analysis and design, quantitative research methods, and business statistics. He received a Teaching Excellence Award from Georgia State University back in 2019. Among other communities in the field, Dr. Alashoor is a member of the Association for Information Systems and the Special Interest Group in Information Security and Privacy. So welcome, Dr. Tawfiq.
Thank you so much for the nice, very kind introduction. Shukran, Mazen.
Absolutely. And also we have with us Dr. Hussain Aldawood, who earned his bachelor degree in Management Information Systems from the University of Arizona in 2009. And a master's degree in business administration from Florida Atlantic University in 2015. And he completed his PhD in information systems, specializing in cybersecurity at the University of Newcastle in Australia in 2020. He also completed an executive education program in cybersecurity leadership and risk management at Harvard University in 2020. From 2010 to 2018, he was an information security professional with the Saudi Aramco, and from 2019 until 2021, he was an academic with the School of Electrical Engineering and Computing at the University of Newcastle. And in the same period, he was the Director of Engineering and Cybersecurity at GulfNet Solutions Companies in Saudi Arabia. Currently, Dr. Hussain is the Chief Information Security Officer at the Arabian Drilling Company in Saudi Arabia. He has published several cybersecurity articles. His research interests include cybersecurity, social engineering threats and solutions, and information security awareness programs. Dr. Hussain is a member of several committees and institutions on cybersecurity engineering and project management, and he's a recipient of many prestigious and international honors and awards, and he is internationally and professionally certified by several institutions. Welcome, Dr. Hussain. You are muted.
I said, thank you very much, Dr. Mazen. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Now, before we start our webinar for today, let me just remind our dear audience that they can ask questions or share their thoughts and opinions in the chat feature in Zoom. Unfortunately, we have disabled the audio participation, so please feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and inshallah we're going to answer them either during the webinar or after the webinar in the Q&A session. Now, let me call it Tawfiq without the doctor, because all of us are doctors here, just to make things smooth and easy. So Tawfiq, can you tell us what do you mean by security and privacy?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mazen, and thanks to everyone for being here with us today. And well, so let's get to this conversation of privacy and security. And so this is how I start my talks. Like, first, we need to clarify or distinguish privacy from security so that we understand what is privacy before we jump into cybersecurity, which is the umbrella for these two domains. So let's start with a brief scenario. So imagine you're working hard during the week, and then end of the week, you know, it's Thursday and you want to take a break. What happens during a weekend is there's more likelihood that individuals are going to use technologies, different kinds of technologies. The amount of usage during the weekend is much more than during the work days. Work days, you'll be working with work stuff. So there's less likelihood that you go into social media. You still go and do that, but you know, the frequency of that is less. And what happens in that case is humans generate a lot of data and information. And where is that coming from? It's coming from their bodies. Brain is basically the major machine that each human has. So whatever we do is we're generating information and data. Even if you walk down the street, if there are sensors, there are cameras, they're capturing some information or data about you. Data that could be, or we can infer some information from those data. And where does that data go? It goes into servers, and that would be called information asset. So going back to the meaning of privacy and security, what we want to do is we want to secure that information asset. It's called asset because data is kind of, we hear this term, data is the new oil. So it's information today is asset to companies and organizations and also individuals, like أصول المباني, البيوت, الأشياء الفيزيكال اللي نعرفها, objects physical. So let's go to now why we started with this scenario is because now that we know what we want to secure, now we can identify what's the difference between security and privacy. So security goes back to the main concept of securing something, right? So, and in this context, it's about protecting personal and organizational information assets against any kind of danger. That's it. So when we talk about security, we know there's a potential threat to the information asset that we have. When we talk about privacy, however, we're talking about protection of personal and organizational data and information against intrusion or unauthorized access. So access to data that we don't know if it may cause some danger consequences or not. So the privacy component is related to providing access and the usage processing of that data that we already have. We know it's safe, but now there might be some danger in terms of how we process that data. So that's kind of the main difference between these two major concepts. And we going back to security, and there's this CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's a principle in security education training. So if you're taking a certificate in security, you are very, very likely that you will learn about this triad. And the main point is, if we can secure confidentiality, integrity, and availability in a triad or a triangular way, we can secure that information asset. Well, this is being used as a security principle, but it's also each component in this triad is privacy. Let's call it inherently a privacy concept. Confidentiality is we want to prevent that unauthorized access or disclosure that we talked about. Integrity, we want to make sure no one processed the data in a way that they were not supposed to do. Availability is related to privacy in the sense of, you know, for instance, you want to be forgotten, so you want to remove this availability of that information, and that is related to the concept of the right to be forgotten from GDPR and also the Saudi law. In the past 20 years or so, the talk has been focused on security education, awareness, training, because the technical mechanisms, firewalls, content filters, all of these things, let's say the industry has done a great job in terms of solidifying those technical measures. But now we see a shift to privacy. We hear privacy a lot, and in Saudi Arabia, we heard about this new law, and all over the world, not only in Saudi, in many countries, in the UAE, they enacted the privacy law back in January this year. So there is a shift from security to privacy, and the reason is that it's a fundamental concept to securing information asset. And I'm putting here Edward Snowden. This is a well-known case in the US back in 2011 when he leaked some information about the CIA and the surveillance system in the US government. And in 2018, we saw the GDPR. GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. So this is in Europe. Now this law impacted all companies and governments that are operating in the international global world. And giving you, again, a context to this whole talk around privacy, there is a privacy day. It's in January 28th. So this year we presented some work that we did in Brazil with several companies, and we asked participants in that event, we asked them whether they care about the privacy of their personal information. 100% of them said yes, and keep in mind that all of them are experts in this domain. So of course, they will all say that we care about our privacy. But then we asked them, would you give a sample of your DNA for an unlimited COVID pass? And 30% said yes. And that would be called a privacy paradox. Or this scenario would apply to this privacy paradox, because your DNA has the most private information and data about you as a person. And if we can collect DNA samples from many individuals, so imagine one company and we can get the DNA sample from each individual, we kind of know the brain of that organization and how it works. There are cases, well-known cases, if you look up DNA privacy, you will see cases that have already proved or supported that DNA can lead to consequences, good outcomes, but also severe outcomes when it comes to violating the right of privacy.
So Tawfiq,
yes.
So privacy paradox, so why is it happening? And what are the consequences of this privacy paradox?
So a lot of things. I don't think we can cover everything tonight, but I'm coming to some explanation. Many things could explain why this paradox is happening. So again, going back to the definition of that is your belief, your concerns, privacy concerns kind of don't match your intention or behavior. And there's a lot of research around it and why it's happening. I'll take a few examples from here. For instance, cognition and emotion. If you are in a happy state, emotional state, you are less likely to act on your beliefs. So even if you have, if you are highly concerned about privacy, but you're in a very good mood, you're less likely to act on those privacy concerns. If you are tired, cognitively tired, that could also lead to some fluctuations in that prediction, meaning that concerns leading to privacy decisions. Another example is privacy fatigue and apathy. Here, you know, you give up. You say, even though you have concerns for privacy, but that's it, you're done. And therefore, your belief will not be consistent with your privacy decisions. And this could happen for so many reasons. And that's why privacy is kind of a convoluted concept, because privacy has a different meaning depending on the context that we are examining. For instance, if we take immediate gratification, if you sign up for an app and it asks you to accept the terms and condition, most people just click accept because there is some benefit, immediate benefit that they will receive right after they click, you know, agree. They will not read all of that. And there's research showing that you would need like thousands of hours to read these privacy policies. And that's why we see these days some websites, when you visit them, they right away show you a pop-up that asks you to make a choice. Do you reject all the cookies or the data analytics that they use, or do you allow that to happen? And that's a shift that we see in Europe and in the US, and we will see this very soon in the Middle East. So those are some examples, and I personally put these 4 points to describe what's happening and to explain why this paradox is happening. So number 1 here, privacy decisions are so volatile and malleable because of these psychological and economic factors, meaning that if you're happy or sad, or if you're in a certain situation, so everything is situational in this context. Well, not everything, but for the most part, a privacy decision depends on the factors that are contributing to that privacy decision you're making. People are around you, someone is telling you, hey, download this app, so you're more likely to consider the benefit more than the cost of allowing your privacy to be used. So, and that's basically the second point. These factors can divert individuals' attention away from privacy protective behaviors. So even if you want to protect your personal data, sometimes you will not actually protect your personal data because there are factors that could lead you away from that. And the third one is, now this is to software developers. These cues, though, when the user interface is designed in a way that does not have any privacy enhancing concept to it, they could lead to decisions that individuals are not happy with. It's just the design, so it's the choice. So the designers, they have so much control over this, let's call it privacy situation. So depending on where they put a certain button, and I'm working with several researchers, master students, PhD students who are doing this work. And that's kind of my area where I can contribute to this, let's say, webinar and talk. So I'm more than happy to elaborate more if you have questions after that. And the fourth point, the fourth principle, the problem, and that's the problem, is in the long run, if we keep revealing or sharing personal information that we're not very sure, or not at least a little bit sure that it's not going to lead to consequences that we're not happy with, now there is a threat to personal and organizational information assets, the information asset that we talked about in the beginning. So the calculus, how we weigh the benefits and the costs of making a privacy decision is very important for individuals, employees, to understand, so that all their privacy decisions are being done in a prudent manner. So given that and what I described to you, I want to share a short 2 minutes video with everyone, and that will give you a sense of how this actually applies in the real world.
Did you start playing the video, Tawfiq, or not yet?
Doesn't look like you started.
Yeah, we don't see the YouTube page.
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. I can share my screen again. How about now?
Yep, you can just go back
All
again.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice elicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and
Okay.
see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yeah.
Way back to the slide deck.
Yep.
All right. So do you see how the social engineer tricked the support line by using emotions, time pressure, and that the support line would probably ask more questions if it was in that situation. But because of that, now the social engineer has more chances in terms of, pulling some data and asking that other person to modify some data. So we get into the issue of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Like at the end, she told him, go and change your password because you cannot have access to it now. So all of that CIA we started with applies here. But if we understand how privacy, where is the privacy decision in this situation, we would be able to understand how to secure the security of that information asset.
So Tawfiq, so now we know the problem and we know the potential consequences. What solutions can we have in order to fix this issue?
Well, there's a bunch of them. It starts in these situations. It starts with education for the most part. So, and that's for instance, privacy calculus here. If we instill this smart privacy calculus mindset in individuals, they would be more likely to know when to share and when to protect information. Sometimes it's better to share information than to protect it. Sometimes it's necessary to share information. Otherwise, you don't get the sought benefit. So there's behavior economics, a lot of concepts from behavior economics, information systems, marketing, law. Personally, I foresee a lot of programs coming up in the US. And also here at CBS and in Europe, many universities have already started their privacy programs. I think this is going to be in the near future, we will see more of these programs. In the industry, we also will see different academies providing or offering privacy awareness training and education programs. So in a nutshell, think about these privacy decisions from a system 1 versus system 2 thinking. And that's the well-known Nobel Prize, Daniel Kahneman. And here's on the left side is Herbert Simon. So all of this work kind of led to this system 1 versus system 2 theory from the book, Thinking Fast and Slow. I'm sure many of you have heard of this book or have already read it. You know, for example, when you start driving a car, you have to pay attention to every move that you're making. But then once you learn, system 1 takes control of your driving behavior and driving decisions. It's kind of similar with privacy. We started with in the early 2000s when the computers, internet became prevalent. We did not learn much about revealing privacy in a digital context. So we used that same model that we had before the digital age, and now we are using that similar model, but we haven't adapted enough to be comfortable with our privacy in general. And that's why we see a lot of revolutions sometimes. People go on protesting, claiming for the right to privacy. So the solution will require a lot, and that's just one from an educational and industry perspective. Well, we will also see law, so regulations have a significant impact on where we are going in the future. Companies have to collaborate, and individuals have to collaborate. So this is not just a one-sided solution. Everyone has to work on it. So that's where this is like a nutshell of what I do in terms of privacy, and I hope that was helpful. And now we'll take this to Dr. Hussain Aldawood, who will enlighten us about some real examples from the real world on those consequences that we talked about in the beginning.
Thank you, Dr. Tawfiq. And now we're going to start with Hussain, who is the expert when it comes to the security. So Hussain, let me ask you a question. So can you give us an example or examples actually of cyber attacks that took place here in Saudi Arabia?
Oh, definitely. I will start actually with the most, one of the biggest cyber attacks that took place in 2012 in our oil and gas industry. And actually, this was actually a case study, and the information here in the slides, the information is public information. You can find it in the internet. So I'm not revealing any secret or sensitive information. So what really happened is during the Eid holidays, it was actually, I call it a strategic cyber attack. So because it took place during the holiday, in the last working day at that time in 2012, the weekend used to be Wednesday and Thursday, if you remember. So the attack took place on Wednesday night in the last working day in Ramadan, just right before Eid. So, and the attack was carried by Shamoun virus. All this virus needed was just time. So in that particular year, the holiday was almost 10 days because it was 5 working days and 2 days before and 2 days after. like weekend before and weekend after. So the attack took place around 10, and it destroyed around 35 computers, according to the public information. And you can imagine how much money we lost during that period. And not only that, after we came back, I was working in Aramco during that time. After we came back from the holiday, our computers were not functioning. So we had to wait until the system gets back on track again. So we had to wait for another 2 to 3 weeks. So time with the oil industry, considering our main source of income as a country, was affected. So and considering Saudi was the largest oil producer in the world, so it hit us really hard. But it was a wake-up call for the company to start considering cybersecurity in terms of its future vision and strategy. And was this the only example? No, of course not. So those hackers were working very hard days and nights to update the next version of Shamoon, which is called Shamoon 2. So our country was hit 4 years after, in late 2016, and those 3 major organizations, government organizations, were affected, and they were not ready for those attacks. And few months after, actually 2 months or 3 months after, in January, please go to the next slide, and a lot of other organizations got affected as well. They were hit by Shamoon 2, and including public organizations and private companies as well. And this was actually the wake-up call for the government to establish or to found the National Cybersecurity Authority.
Okay, but before we proceed to the National Cybersecurity Authority, can you give us also more examples, like international examples of cyber attacks that took place also in different international companies?
Definitely. So cyber attacks, it doesn't really matter how big or how small your organization is. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you will be attacked. Before I proceed with those examples, I will just give you a funny example about Dunkin' Donuts. A while ago, I heard about a major cyber attack that was taking place in Dunkin' Donuts. Why would the attackers target Dunkin' Donuts? Do they want to get the recipe of donuts, of their coffee, for example? So it doesn't really matter what type of business you have. It gives us an indication that it is very important to consider securing your network and infrastructure in the first place. So one of the major and most interesting stories here in this list is Yahoo. Yahoo, if you remember back before 2010, everyone was using Yahoo as a second search engine, and it was very famous, and it was a mail provider. People used to book their tickets with Yahoo. It was a very trustworthy platform. And just before they got attacked, their market value was very high. Microsoft in 2008, for example, wanted to acquire Yahoo for almost $50 billion. And after the cyber attack, which took place from 2013 until 2016, Yahoo suffered from multiple attacks. And the funny story is that the attackers stayed inside their infrastructure and network, and Yahoo didn't realize. And what made it worse is that when their management found out that they they got some hackers in their network. They did not reveal this information, and that was a very strategic mistake when they wanted to sell their operations or to sell their platform to Verizon. And and in the beginning, and also they lied about how many number of records they were compromised. In the beginning, they said they only had 24 accounts compromised. Then a few days after, they confirmed that, oh no, we changed our mind. It's actually 500 million accounts. And then in 2016, they revealed this information that and they said it's about 3 billion number of records were compromised. Basically, everyone that had Yahoo, their data, their names, phone numbers, email addresses, passwords, any sensitive information were compromised. And also there is another story with an interesting story, similar story with the Marriott. The Marriott International lost around 500 million of their customers' data in 2018, and the hackers stayed from 2014, and in some other sources they said from 2015 until 2018. So the company did not even realize that they were attacked. And what makes the Marriott International story more interesting is that they are the major contractor with the U.S. government. So, and they pointed the finger on the Chinese because they were monitoring the spies, the American spies, to that move from one country to another. And they know, and they were able to track those spies because they were not, when they book their reservations, the US government books it for them, and they can see the invoice from their end. So, and reason behind what the major mistake behind the Marriott is that when they acquired a lot of chain of hotels, they got rid of their information security professionals, and they relied on their IT staff. So that's one of the big mistakes in industry. You need to educate the management of this basic concept that IT should be segregated from information security.
Interesting. Okay.
So there are so many stories. So because of time, let's move on.
Absolutely. Okay. So the Saudi government is aware about these cybersecurity attacks and all these, issues with the cyber war and everything. So back in 2018, or before we talk about actually the National Cybersecurity Authority, can you tell us why the cybersecurity is so important? I mean, as I told you before, Saudi Arabia is aware about these attacks and the significance of these attacks. So can you tell us why the cybersecurity is important?
Considering this, the stories that we listed earlier, it doesn't matter if you are in a government organization, you are a private sector, you are a corporation, or you're a small business or medium business. All type of businesses today, they use information systems. So in order for you to maintain your business continuity, you need to secure your data. There is also, you see, with the Yahoo's case, there is a reputation cost associated. Their market value, they got a bid from Microsoft with 50 billion. They ended up selling their platform for only 4.7 billion only to Verizon. So see how much they lost. So right now, today's value of Yahoo is $0 compared to their value back in the day. And there is also the one of the reputation costs. See, with the Marriott, when the Marriott found out about their cyber attack, they sent a message to all the customers, 500 million customers, to change their credit card information. See, there is like, if I have my account with the Marriott, I worry about, and I listen to Tawfiq's speeches all the time, I would worry about my privacy. So I wouldn't go back to the Marriott again because they are doing bad practices. So also, if you think about it from big perspective, as a country, here, the country wants to make sure that their citizens are safe. See, we have a lot of initiatives from the government. So we all heard about the Cyber Kids initiative. We hear about cybersecurity awareness programs that the government advertise all the time. So but the main focus here is to maintain our business continuity, regardless of what we are doing. We rely on information systems. So that's why cybersecurity is so important. Number one is maintaining business continuity.
All right. So also, what kind of challenges that we are facing with cybersecurity in 2022? I mean, again, as you said, let me emphasize that. I mean, now we are in the digital economy. We rely on information systems. So with all these new digital technologies and innovations, I mean, we're going to still have cybersecurity as a challenge. And who knows whether we're going to master, all these cybersecurity techniques and tools so that we can, close any issues or problems. But tell us, I mean, what kind of challenges that we are facing this year and we might also face in the near future?
Let me actually first talk about the whole world. Then we'll come back to, since the talk is about Saudi Arabia, we'll talk a little bit about the challenges we're facing right now. So in terms of digitalization, you see the whole world is all about digitalization, about making everything connected to the internet. Any device, regardless of how big or small, or how sensitive it is, including your phone, your iWatch, including little tracking devices, or CCTV in the house, or smart homes, smart cities. The more IT devices that we connect to the internet, the more we expose ourselves to cyber attacks and threats. So it is estimated by the end of this year that there will be about 30 billion connected IoT devices connected to the internet. What does this tell us? It tells us that there is a huge challenge and a nightmare for cybersecurity professionals to protect this number of devices. And on the other side, it brings joy and happiness for attackers because there are so many devices to attack. And here, مثل ما يقولوا الشيء بالشيء يذكر. There was a major cyber attack on target in the US. How did the hackers hack into their POS system and were able to get into all the transactions and obtain the credit card information of their customers? How? By hacking the third-party air conditioning remote control. So Target, they maintained very good security level of their infrastructure, but what they didn't consider is securing their third-party like a remote control that was used for many other devices. It's like when you use your username and password for your router, admin. You don't. So they did not change the basic settings for their air conditioning. So the hackers got into one of the small devices that is connected to their Wi-Fi, which in the same network, their POS system is connected to. So that's how scary it is for organizations. So the challenges here we are facing in our country, I am facing it actually on daily basis in terms of the shortage of cybersecurity professionals. Even though we have started as a country, to offer academic programs they are still not even close to enough. So we are suffering in the market in finding, if any of you is following me in LinkedIn, you see from time to time, I cry for cybersecurity professionals with only 2 to 3 years experience. In the past, I required 10 years. Then I downgraded to 5 years. Now I am okay with 2 years to 3 years, because it's the more time we live, the more need we need for digitalizing our businesses. The more we digitalize our businesses, the more need. The more the heavy load I have in my shoulders as a CISO. So number one, establishing a team and maintaining this team with you, around you, is a huge challenge.
Hussain, I'm worried that you will settle with fresh grads after 2 weeks. So yeah, so we will see. We will see.
I trained. I got training those fresh grads. It takes a bit of time, but then they finally find some offers here and there. Anyway, one of the challenges. The other challenge is educating the top management about how important they should, like how much money they need to invest in securing, in spending, because they come, usually top management, they come with a financial background. And they always seek for return of investment. And sometimes tell them, spend 1 million, you will safeguard 100 million. But then they are not convinced sometimes. It's very hard.
So what you are saying is that we have like 2 main challenges when it comes to the human capital that feed into the market. And also it is like the top management team mentality about the importance of security and privacy overall, that they need to be educated, they need to understand the importance of that, and part of that is having like CISOs and CPOs who are part of the company who can educate those executives about the importance of privacy and security. All right, awesome. So in 2018, the National Cybersecurity Authority issued the Essential Cybersecurity Control. Hussain, walk us through the details of these controls, if you don't mind.
Definitely. So the National Cybersecurity Authority is doing an enormous work in terms since the establishment of the authority, actually. So if you remember what I said earlier, is that the establishment was in late 2017. In 2020, we are number 2 in terms of cybersecurity maturity globally. Our rank is number 2. So we started as number 13, then number, I think, 9. Then in 2020, the last report shows that our country is ranked as number 2. That tells us how much work and how many initiatives the National Cybersecurity Authority is doing. So the Essential Cybersecurity Controls, which was issued in 2018, this is only one of the initiatives out of many of them. So this one, actually, the authority's vision is to make sure to set a minimum requirements or to create a maturity in the cybersecurity domain in the country. They suggested, or they wanted all the organizations, government or private, to adopt this framework. So what does this framework contain? So this framework is divided to 5 domains. The first one is it's what's called Cybersecurity Governance. And this has 10 subdivisions. So, and that includes the cybersecurity strategy, cybersecurity management, cybersecurity policies and procedures, cybersecurity information technology projects, and information technology projects. So those ones usually if you walk into any organization, if you pick, I would say, out of 10 organizations, maybe only one of them is adopting, is having a cybersecurity strategy. So what does this strategy have? The strategy has the roadmap to apply all the security controls of the, for example, of a certain framework, and which the ECC is one of them. And also, if you walk into organization and tell them where are your security policies and procedures, usually they don't have them. So this is what this the first domain is focused on. It's also focused on the cybersecurity management. Each company needs to segregate their IT, information technology department, and information security department or cybersecurity department. And then they need to have some certain level of management or expertise in the same this newly created cybersecurity department, including, for example, CISO, cybersecurity manager, head of cybersecurity, who know actually, who have deep experience in recommending to the company those controls or the tools and solutions which are included in the second domain, which is called the cybersecurity defense. The biggest one is, out of those 5 domains, is the second one, which is called cybersecurity defense, which focuses on the technical part. Here we can divide it. It is divided actually to 15 subdomains, which include asset management and email protection, cryptography, mobile device security, network security management, backup and recovery management. All of those are solutions, technical solutions. They that help the organizations to protect themselves technically. And the third domain, it's called cybersecurity resilience. What this domain focuses on is to align the business continuity plan, the organization's business continuity plan, and which also has part of it as a disaster recovery plan or incident handling response plan. Like, let's say if the organization faces a cyber attack that stops the system, is there a plan? Is there a plan that tells and communicates, or are there drills in the organization of that sets how long it should help the organization to get back to yesterday's system, or the activities to retain the activity, the normal activities before the attack? Here, where this focuses on. The fourth domain, or domain number 4, includes policies and procedures about third-party and cloud computing cybersecurity. So if you remember what I said about target, here it should determine, or it should set the policies or the rules and responsibilities how those vendors or third parties are how they connect their systems to the organization. And the fifth one, that includes the ICS cybersecurity for factories and for the OT, operational technology. So this is, in a brief, the 5 domains that covers the essential cybersecurity controls. And the country's actually vision to finish this program in 2 years. And unfortunately, up to this year, we don't, I would say, we did not even meet 50% as a countrywide. So it's a huge work for the government. The government is doing an enormous job. They have an organization called SITE as their technical arm to help governments, universities to adopt this framework, and then they help them with the auditing as well. And it's a continuous work. So companies, I have seen companies they want to adopt this before even the country or the authority comes with their auditors to audit. So there is a desire from organizations to adopt this framework, which actually helps them to go to the next level of adopting other international.
Hussein, does this ECC framework align with or is it compatible with other international security frameworks?
Definitely. If we see, for example, NIST and ISO, they have less number of controls. So the NCA, I would call it more comprehensive. It's inherited from both NIST and ISO as well. It's the ISO, I'm referring to ISO 27001, Information Security Management System. So yes, the government is adopting it's aligning with international. So I always advise companies when they seek for my opinion to adopt this first requirement to meet with the local regulations, then they will easily go for or apply for the information ISO 27001, for example, if they want to do business internationally.
Fantastic. Okay, back to Tawfiq. So Tawfiq, you started with the principles and Hussein continued and talked about the practice, right? So now, how does privacy related to the consequences that Hussein just described?
I will go back to the first scenario I started with. So think about the information that you share or protect as a human, any kind of data at work or outside work. That could be categorized as personal data depending on the context of that situation. So if you're sharing, for instance, let's put it in a context. Or here we have an example, right? A click can represent a privacy decision. When you go to any website or when you use your phone, the way you scroll, depending on the app that you're using, the app could be collecting some behavioral data. It could be just collecting how you move your finger all the time, how your browsing behavior. Well, that is, or that could be problematic depending on where this company is operating and how they're using that data point about you. Or, well, it's more than one point, it's many points, right? And if we are able to know, so now we go back to how these major consequences happen. If I know enough about you and your behavior in this digital world, I'm able to intervene and change your behavior and make you reveal sometimes data that you would not want to reveal. And when that happens, social engineers are happy because that's the, and we know the human factor or human error is one of the major factors that lead to these huge cybersecurity incidents. And that human factor starts with a privacy decision. So that's how we kind of connect this privacy to security from principle to practice. But what do we need to do? And that takes us to the end of this seminar or webinar. Countries need to invest in data-centric and privacy culture. So, and that's highly emphasized in the current version of the Saudi privacy law or personal data protection law.
Yeah, so basically, can you explain to us this Saudi Arabia personal data protection law?
Yeah, so I hear this is the last slide, and just to give you an overview, similar to the NCA and how Hussein described the NCA framework. The current version of the privacy law, which again has been postponed until next year for different reasons. It has 15 domains. So NCA had 5 domains, and some of those 5 domains are probably covered by this domain number 15. So we don't know what's going to happen. So we will see the evolution of this law might lead to a conversion between NCA and privacy in one comprehensive law. So this law has 15 domains, and companies have to comply with many of these domains. In the first year, given the current version, in the first year, as we see here, P1 refers to priority 1, which is year number 1. In year 1, companies and organizations have to comply with 76 controls. And that's a lot of controls in 1 year. If you think about small organizations, they could die if they have to comply with so many of these controls. These are very expensive controls. And then, so by the end of the 3rd year, according to the current version again, there's 191 specifications. So there's, I'll give you a brief example to, for instance, this straightforward one, companies have to have their employees taking some privacy awareness programs. Companies have to build a data-centric culture. Well, that's a lot of investment to start with. And what we think is major big companies, large-size companies, enterprise, they are more likely to start way before small organizations. So it's like Hussain, you could talk about the NCA and how, for instance, major companies in Saudi kind of led to smaller companies to comply with the law, or not to comply. It wasn't a law, it was just a framework. But when a major company does not provide a choice to its third parties, then third parties have to comply with this framework, because the major company wouldn't operate with them if they were not in compliance with this let's call customized framework by that major company. So the law has so many different domains, some of them about protecting data, some of them about opening data to the public. And there's many different rules. I won't bore each one of the audience now on this, but the document is available there. Follow SDAIA, they always put some updates on the law. And we look forward to see the next version. So the government now is seeking some opinions and facts from industry leaders in terms of what they could do to make this privacy law an efficient and effective one, rather than disrupting the market in a way that will lead to an economic problem. So it's been an hour us talking, and that leads us to the end. So Mazen, you can take over now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tawfiq, and thank you, Hussain, for the valuable information that you gave to us. I mean, truly, I mean, this is an important and timely topic that all of us need to understand, all of us need to talk about, and it should be an open dialogue for all of us, whether you are in the privacy and the security world or not, because you will be impacted with these new laws, whether you like it, I mean, or not. If you are a business owner, if you are an individual, if you're working for the government, all of us now are stakeholders in this new law. So thank you so much, Tawfiq, and thank you so much, Hussain. So, but I believe we have completed 1.5 hours. يعني مثل ما يقولون الحديث يعني ذو شجون، لكن we can speak for hours. يعني ما شاء الله تبارك الله, with your expertise and experience and knowledge, يعني we can spend at least 4 hours easily speaking about these things. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but people can reach you absolutely on LinkedIn. We are also you're also available also in our group in WhatsApp for the Saudi Association, so everyone can reach you, since you are both the experts in privacy and security. But before we conclude, Hussain and Tawfiq, in less than 1 minute, can you give me your last thoughts? Tawfiq.
That's a difficult question. وخليها بالعربي. الحقوق الخصوصية بدأت مع article ظهرت في عام 1890 تقريبا. It was a Harvard Review article. أمريكا وأوروبا وصلوا إلى الأشياء هذه مؤخرا في ال3 سنوات الماضية. عام 2018 GDPR, the most comprehensive law so far. يعني السعودية الآن we are not behind. We are there moving with this global خلينا نقول revolution. And what is this going to make, or how this is going to influence the Saudi market. راح يغير هذا كل شيء، راح يغير تغيير جذري في السوق السعودي من from businesses to governmental institutions to individuals. خلاص معنى الخصوصية راح يتغير في ثقافة الشخصية السعودية. This is from a top-down move. I think this is what's going to happen if we look 10 years from now. معنى الخصوصية راح يتغير حتى في الأجيال الجاية.
حسين.
بما أن في إنفاق حكومي سخي على هذا المجال، كونوا فخورين، لأن في عام 2020 كنا 2. أنا متأكد إذا وصلت دولتنا في تطبيق الرؤية خاصة في السايبر سيكيورتي، راح نكون احنا اوريدي في مصاف الدول. أنا متطلع إن احنا نكون نتولى رقم 1 في العالم، وهذا الفيجن وهذا العشم إن شاء الله. وآخر كلمة، السكيورتي is everyone's responsibility، سواء كنت أب في البيت على أولادك، سواء كنت مدير سواء كنت موظف، سواء كنت مدير شركة، سواء كنت مدرس في الجامعة أو في المدرسة أو في أي مكان. اللي نحتاج ناخذه على عاتقنا إحنا اليوم إن إحنا we are aware. Let's spread the knowledge. Let's spread. خلينا إحنا نوعي اللي حوالينا لين يبقى في مستوى معين من النضوج، لأنه يألم كثير إن إحنا نشوف أقاربنا ولا أصحابنا يعني ينخدعوا برسائل الاحتيال والتصيد، ونتكلم بمئات الآلاف على حسابات شخصية. حرام. يعني الداء هو هذاك، والدواء هو spreading knowledge. it is part of our social responsibility to spread the security awareness. يعطيكم العافية والمعذرة على الإطالة.
Dr. Hussain, Dr. Tawfiq, thank you so much, and also thanks to Dr. Alyami for organizing this event. Until we meet with another event organized by the Saudi Association for Information Systems, stay healthy and safe. Assalamu alaikum.
شكرا جزيلا، وشكرا للحضور، وشكرا للمنظمة السعودية لنظم المعلومات. شكرا.
شكرا مازن.